So tell us a little bit about partnership in general, and then of course you can introduce your special guest. But as we begin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what partnership is all about?
Yes, so we actually have several partnering aspects in the BCNE, and tonight I'm going to be focusing on our church to church partnership. My role is really to help churches outside of New England to connect with our churches inside of New England for mission partnership. And that could look like a variety of things. It could be through prayer, it could be through mission trips, it could be through, sending support, whatever ways our partnering churches want to help. And I do the best I can. My husband says I'm a matchmaker, which, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm with you on the journey as we search for the right partner for you. But you'll get to hear from my friends tonight who are partners. And so I'm super excited to have them both with us tonight. One is a partnering church. His name is John Kendrick. He is the missions guy at First Baptist Church in Middleburg. And then the other one is one of our BCNE pastors, Dexley Dorcely, who is the pastor at Faith Community Church in Providence, Rhode Island. And they partner together. So this will be a unique opportunity for us to hear from both sides, and even hopefully if you guys have questions to throw those up on the chat and we can try to address those as well.
All right, so good. Thank you, Sharon. So I have put up the information about your special guests, and so I'm going to pop off and watch for your chats in between, and I will interact in the chat with people. And so welcome, John, and welcome, Dexley.
Yes, welcome, guys. It's good to see you. And how long have you guys been partnering together?
At this point, oh yeah, go.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Dexley.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Is this year? This will be year three,
Okay, awesome.
I
If you
believe. Yeah,
would
yeah,
just tell us a brief information about you. We'll start with you, Dexley, about your church, where you serve, your community, something that maybe people would want to know about you.
yeah. So Dexley Dorcely, I serve as the pastor, lead pastor at Faith Community Church. We're located in Providence, Rhode Island, specifically the Elmwood neighborhood of Providence, Rhode Island. So it's a predominantly minority majority community, so mostly Hispanic, and a mix of other cultures and peoples in this neighborhood. It's got some real economic challenges, some real societal issues, but very vibrant in culture and in the people in this neighborhood.
Okay, awesome. John, if you'll introduce yourself, and I know you may even have a little different role than I previously knew about at your church, and where you guys are located and kind of what your church is like.
Okay, happy to, Kendrick. We are at First Baptist Church of Middleburg, Florida, which is just south of Jacksonville. The church itself is, well, the community was very rural, a lot of ranches, a lot of farms, and now it's still that, but also a bedroom community to Jacksonville. So it's become suburbia over the years. The church is good size, probably even its heyday back in the 2010s, prior to COVID and prior to a couple of pastor changes, running 13 to 1500 in attendance. Now, post-COVID, we're probably 8 to 900. So still, obviously, a good-sized church. Very missions-minded, always have been, particularly in our community. We are known in our county for very program things, but also being very responsive to needs. Hurricane Irma came through here several years ago and devastated the area. Even though we're inland, there's a number of creeks, and it was just, you know, flooding that doesn't happen once a century. So our church was at the forefront of a lot of restoration and ministering to people. So we're very missions minded. I was on staff there until October. I was a pastor of you'd probably call it an XP in some churches. I was administration, but also small groups, adult discipleship. Have pastored a church bivocationally in my past. but stepped down in October. I have 9 grandkids and I wanted to be able to visit them and still work. So I'm working for another ministry now that consults with churches and I'm able to work remotely. So loving that. But one of the conditions when I stepped aside was that I continue this partnership with Dexley and Faith Community. And they were very happy for me to do that. And I was very happy to do that. So that's kind of who we are and happy to be here.
Yes. Well, share, how did you guys initially get connected?
I'll start with that because I think it probably started with us. The what used to be known as the Jacksonville Baptist Association, now called First Coast Churches, did a vision trip to New England, and it turned out to be me and 2 other guys who I knew very well, one a longtime friend of mine. But we came up and met with Sharon and Hal and with Darren Sullivan, which is interestingly enough, all 3 of those people are now in Florida, so I'm not sure what happened there. But we met with them. The Hallers introduced us to several folks in Connecticut, and then we met several pastors in Providence that were from Rhode Island and Connecticut. And Dexley was at that dinner at an Italian restaurant that was fantastic. So we just got to meet the folks, and as we heard the needs, Dexley's resonated with me. He talked about, and I'll definitely let him tell his story because it's a beautiful story of faith community. But one of their major needs was in an older building, in an older community, and they needed some work. And we are a blue collar, redneck church with a lot of people that love to get their hands dirty, a lot of skilled people, and that just resonated. So I came back up a few months later to the what's it called, neighborhood churches, I think, run out of Grace Harbor in New Bedford. We came up to their conference, and Dexley was to be there. And I had reached out to every pastor we met, and Dexley was the only one that could meet with us. So I just felt God was pointing us to him. And he was at that conference. And then when it ended, we came over to visit his church. And just a great little story. I brought 2 laymen from our church, and one of them is a general contractor. And we were touring the facilities, and I asked Dexley what your greatest needs are. And David jumped in and said, I'll tell you what your needs are. He started listing everything that he felt they needed. And he's been with us on both mission trips. He's been up there on his own to help the church, has formed a bond with Dexley and some folks up there. So that's how it started. And it's been great since. I think we've been able to come alongside and hopefully be a benefit to them. How
about you, Dexley? You want to add anything to the story?
Yeah, I think my brother left no crumbs for me to pick up, but I think just to maybe add from my perspective, I think for us, it was an email that was sent out by Sharon to let us know that some pastors were coming up from the Jacksonville area to try to connect and with the hope of partnership coming out of that. And so, yep, we met on Atwell's Ave in Providence at one of the many Italian restaurants on Atwell's Ave. And yeah, got to share our stories and we connected. But then you're right. Come May, you guys had come up for the conference and you and Dave came to the church. We got to spend some time together just to talk about our vision, what we were hoping for, and yes, the many needs, the endless list of needs of our building. And so, yeah, just really thankful for it. I think it was really clear early on that you guys had a real sense of what our vision was. And it was easy to see how partnership could form out of that. I mean, we met in May, and then July, you guys are here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 months later, so not a lot of preparation, a whole team comes up to do some work with us. And so it was clear there was a lot of, there was a lot of shared vision about, regardless of the difference in context, you guys are in a rural area, we're in the city. But there was enough shared vision and longing to see the gospel done in this neighborhood, made it easy to partner together and see a missions week come together that quickly.
That's awesome. Well, it makes me happy to know that you guys connected so well, because I don't always know. I try to listen when people are talking to me on both sides, because I feel like if the connection is good, that mission can flow both ways. And that's one of our goals here, is not for our BCNE churches just to receive everything, but how can we give back and build those relationships and encourage our partners or go down and help them. So I'm super happy to know that it's going well for both of you. When you look for a partnership, what are some of the questions that you ask? We'll start with you, Dexley, this time. How do you, I don't want to say screen, but how do you determine if, when you're looking for a partner, what would be a good fit for you?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing is uh, humility and awareness. I think there is an idea of what a missions trip should be, or a partnership should look like. And I think, often because churches have particular skills and longings, that they can come with expectations of what they should be doing when they partner with a church. And so I think, in conversations that we had with John and with Middleburg, there was a humility of, I mean, very quickly saying, hey, we want to do what is actually needed. We want to be helpful to what you guys are doing. We want to come alongside you. We're not here to tell you what to do. We want to partner with what you're already doing. And so that's something, I think it's probably the biggest thing that we look for. And then again, kind of harping on what I just said, I think because of the need of our context, it's important for us for people to partner with us, that they would share our vision. We are going after a particular kind of demographic, which has its own kinds of challenges. And so you need to have the humility to be able to ask questions and want to learn from us as we're trying to minister to the people in our neighborhood. And again, those were things that were clear as conversations were had. And in we've had 2 trips already over the last year. Last year it was 2 weeks. And so it's just been clear that the people who've come, some twice, probably 3 times this year, have just had a willingness to learn, ask questions, and be a part of what we're doing.
That's awesome. How about for you, John?
Well,
Questions are things that you consider when you're thinking about a partner that might be a good fit.
yeah, it's Dexley's turn not to leave me any crumbs because that idea of humility and shared vision. If they're not about the gospel, we don't want to partner with them, and that's entirely what Faith Community and reaching out in love to their community. And he said exactly what I would say. We wanted to truly partner and come alongside. I know there's a risk of a bigger church or even a southern church coming in saying we know how to do it, and that we don't know how to do it in the Elmwood neighborhood of Providence, Rhode Island. We might have to do some things in Middleburg, but we wanted to truly be an asset to them to meet their needs. So it was really saying, what can we do to help you? Not we're here to direct in any way. So
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things I really try to key on for partners who are coming into New England is come as missionaries. Because while they speak English here, and in Dexley's case, maybe some of them don't, because he's reaching different people groups, but come with that open mindset, just like you're going to a foreign country or a place where they don't speak your language, because really the language is different up here than in Florida. And the needs and how you relate to people is different. Just like when Dexley comes down to you, you probably might share a few things with him. Okay, Dexley, don't say this or don't do this. It's not going to be well received. Whereas in New England, that's the norm. So that is one thing that when I'm looking for partners for our churches is, hey, come as missionaries with an open mindset, ready to do and be a blessing, a help for the people you're working with. So I'm grateful for that, bringing that point out, Dexley. So John, you had a couple of trips to Rhode Island. What kind of things did you do while you were here?
well, we initially came up to do the facility stuff, but also wanted to do what we could in the community to help the church. And the first year, as actually kind of alluded to, it was slapped together. I mean, we did it in about 6, 8 weeks. We put a trip together, and it was a mix of people, a little bit older, one family with 2 older teenage daughters, and then a young guy who was an electrician came up. And we wanted to be able to do what we could in the community to help because faith community is very community oriented. So we did the physical labor on the roof in the building, things like that. But we also Dexley arranged for us to go to a community center that had an adjacent park that they let the kids out every day at noontime. So we did face painting and reading Bible stories and science experiments, partnered with the folks in faith community, played soccer with them, did a lot of stuff like that. And then in the evenings, went out into the community. I think we distributed fruit baskets every time and just invited people to a movie night to come back to the church. This last year, I was there for 2 weeks with several other guys, and then we had 2 different teams come up for each week. One was an older group that probably focused more on the facilities again, although still community participation. And then the next week, we brought up a number of students that because of COVID had never participated in a mission trip, never done anything like that. So it was a much younger crowd the second week. Still did a lot of the physical plant stuff, but much more out in the community, hanging out at parks, again, going door to door. The Saints at Faith community had canvassed their neighborhood and said, "Is there anything we can help with? Things we can repair?" So we actually did some repairs, hauled out trash, did different things, and loved the community focus, because one thing we learned on those vision trips, particularly in the urban areas, people are, and it's probably true in the villages and towns, people are very focused on the community and don't really go outside the boundaries of the community if they don't have to. They might have to work, but they want to shop there. And if they do worship, they want to worship there. So we wanted to do what we could to foster, I guess, that community engagement. So Dexley was very good at putting us to work there, hanging out at parks, doing the stuff for the kids, participating in the food distribution, just whatever. We painted at an elementary school. I mean, it was whatever he could find in that community that where they needed help. We wanted to be there for it. So.
That's awesome. How did your team respond to this new location and culture? What kind of things did they say? What did they deal with?
Well, it's interesting that when we met with you and those Connecticut pastors, one of them shared to us, and I think he was from the South somewhere, but he said his analogy was, in the South, there's a low fence. People will talk to you, be friendly, but if you really want to get to know them, it's a higher fence. And he said, in New England, it's completely different. He said, it took me 6 months backing out of my driveway, waving to my neighbor before we finally struck up a conversation. But once you get over that, so we came up probably preparing not to really form relationships or kind of be rebuffed. And we didn't find that at all, honestly. I mean, people are people, and they were generally friendly. I mean, we didn't make bosom buddies and just being up there for a week, but there were people we engaged with that we saw when we came up the next summer. I know one guy in the neighborhood that the guy already referred to, David, kind of developed a relationship, prayed with him. We saw him again the next summer. So I think we came up with expectations that weren't met, that were unrealistic, because we found we could engage, and people would respond to it, particularly going door to door and repairing something or hauling out their trash or doing something like that. They saw the love that motivated us, I think. So, yeah, I think our people really were moved by it. I'll talk about that probably in a minute, but it was probably not what they expected, but more than they expected. So better than they expected.
That's awesome. Was there any takeaways that they brought back to Middleburg, Jacksonville area that have helped you guys in reaching? Let me just do a quick insert here. Florida is receiving, I don't know how many, but tons of people. A lot of New Englanders, New Yorkers, New Jersey, people are moving from here to Florida. And so when I interact with Florida pastors, a lot of them will say, "Oh, I didn't know about that," or, "Oh, that makes sense because I know that they deal this way versus that way." And so when you're, especially in the South, if you're coming from the South, you can also expect that these people may be moving into your neighborhood, if not now, probably in the future.
Mm-hmm. I think what we took away, and that's a great point, and I think we need to be prepared for that in our county alone. The developments they had to put a stop to it because it was just affecting the infrastructure too much. But I think our biggest takeaway was actually from the folks at Faith Community. We're a good-sized church. They probably run 40 to 50 on a good Sunday, maybe, Dexley, I'm not sure. But the spirit, the unity, the family there, if you know the story of Faith Community, it's an older church that needed revitalization, kind of brought in some fresh blood. Dexley was part of that, and then became the pastor. And that old crowd is still there, and they sit together, but they love one another and they engage with, and they fully participate in the family, and the unity we saw there affected everybody on every trip we've been on. And we wanted to bring that back to our church. Now, when you run 800 on a Sunday morning, that's kind of tough to do, but you can do it in small groups. You can do it in other ways. And I think some of our folks, particularly the younger ones, hadn't necessarily seen that. And to experience that and the closeness I still text a couple of the people. One, wished me Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We go back and forth, and to develop those relationships and see the love that they have. I think our folks wanted that. Not that we didn't have it, but to see that just that family spirit across all ages and races, and to bring that back to Middleburg and try to foster a stronger set of relationships like that is our biggest takeaway. Honest, I think if you asked anybody that went on the trip, you would hear that.
That's awesome. Dexley, I have one more question in your section, John, but I'm going to go to Dexley now. Is there anything you'd like to add to what he said as far as like from your perspective? And then I've got some questions for you as well.
No, I think, yeah, in terms of takeaways, I would be in total agreement. I think the relationships, I think there's something special about seeing two different bodies who worship the same God, preach the same gospel, but in different contexts, able to come together for a period of time and to watch that mix. And it's this interesting thing where you have these two people groups because every single time a group has come, they've been here for a Sunday. And so we get to worship together. And yeah, it's been incredible to see how, despite growing in very different parts of the country and perhaps we think about culture a little bit differently because Norse, all of those things, the beauty and the bond that Christ allows to occur because of the reconciliation we have in him. And I think that's been for me, the gift that's come out of this has been that. I mean, there's been good work done, and we'll talk about that too. But the gift really has been the relationships with the members, the saints at Middleburg.
So you kind of touched on this. How have your church members responded to having this team or other teams come in to do the mission that God has given you guys? Are they open to it? Are they involved? What is their relationship to this team as they come?
They've been really blessed by it. Yeah, there's been a real joy both times, all three teams that have come through. It's been a real excitement before they come, a real joy to work and partner with them while they're here, and almost an emptiness when they leave. Just kind of like, oh, we're a little sad that they're not going to be with us this Sunday morning. And so the church has been very, very they've been very excited and eager to have Middleburg come up and be with us for the week. They see the value. Right, we're a smaller church. We probably average around 35. We have quite a few homebound members. And so they see the value of having other Christians giving up their time, vacation time perhaps, and money to come up and be with us and do work we long to do, but don't always have capacity and resource to do. And so they get really excited to know that there are other believers who are willing to take the trek, be with us on those hot, maybe not as hot as Florida July days, but hot July days, and be outside, walking the neighborhood with us, doing the work with us.
That's awesome. Is there anything that you guys do during the week that encourages that relational connection between your church and the mission team? Like, do you do any dinners together? Is there any, I mean, I know the team is super busy and then probably some of your people are with them as they're able, but what have you done to foster that building of those relationships?
So all three times you've done a dinner. One of the Sunday night, the first Sunday night they're here, we'll do a dinner and invite some of the members of the church. They're here on that Sunday morning. We have last year we tried to do a couple beach days. One of those beach days didn't go so well because was that the early flight? That was
that was the first week.
They had a very early flight. So they were a little tired, but we tried to do a beach day just to invite the church, both churches to come together. I think last year they came to one of my volleyball games, actually, I had during the week. And so we did that, got ice cream afterwards. And so we try to do at least a couple things in the week where we're not necessarily doing work, but just able to be together, have conversation, minister to one another like that.
Yeah, that hangout time I think is valuable because when you're doing the work, sometimes you're focused and the focus could be on the work or reaching lost people or whatever, but having some of that downtime is good between both groups because it builds those friendships that you have said that are even continuing while you're away, which is amazing.
And just to add to that, this time, last year, we didn't do this the first time, but our Sunday night went a little long. But one of the things we did is we actually went around the room and had everyone share uh, their name, where they're, what they're doing, and their testimony. Just to, yeah, I think even people in the group, some of them weren't familiar with others' testimonies too.
Mhm.
And so it was really cool just to have a moment where you had almost, 20 people going around sharing a bit about themselves and how the Lord has brought them into the faith.
That's awesome. So, John, were there any things that you do on your end to prepare your team to come up? And if so, just share a few of those.
Yeah, well, we have a couple of meetings prior to it. Some of that's logistics, but it's also expected behavior. Be on your best behavior. We're representing our church, but we're meeting with fellow believers here to reach their community. That we are partnering with them, and then I prepared a 7 day kind of devotional guide for the 7 days leading up to the actual trip to prepare their hearts and to get them ready. And several of them found that meaningful to be able to dig in that way. So it's very pointed to prepare them for missions. And then every day during the trip, we meet morning and evening to start the day with scripture, with prayer, to talk about the day. Then we debrief at night and talk about what we saw God doing and maybe where we could do better, and just what we observed. So, and then afterwards, we try to get together too when we're back in Florida and just kind of talk through things. So yeah, I guess just some meeting, a lot of emails and text. We established a WhatsApp for each group, each of the 2 weeks, and just tried to keep everybody informed. And that was particularly useful because coming back last year, in the middle weekend was, I think it's when the cyber attack occurred on airlines, and it was just an absolute mess. We had people spending nights in Charlotte, and we actually had to drive from Providence down to JFK Airport to pick our people up because they couldn't get to Providence. So it was good to stay in touch. I would recommend anybody, do a WhatsApp or do something that allows you to real time get in touch with your group. So
Well, that's a good word to share. And one of the cool things that's happened through this relationship is Dexley's been able to travel to Florida.
Mhm.
So, Dexley, what kind of things do you do when you've been able to go down and visit First Baptist Middleburg or other parts of Florida? I know you've been on more than one occasion.
Yeah, so I've gone down to be with the Saints of Middleburg twice. I'll be actually going next week for the third time. So next Wednesday I'll be flying down. So last year I was there October and November, I believe, or not last year, the year before that. I'm
Yeah.
stuck in 2024, so 2023. But yeah, they had me come down and allowed me to preach to their saints on Wednesday night, which was a real gift. Got to see a lot of the saints who came up the first time, spend some time with them. I also came down that time, I believe it was October, to be part of their pastors gathering in the greater Jacksonville area. So got to share a little bit about our church with some of the different leaders and pastors in the Jacksonville area and got to connect with a few of them. I went down in November for their annual feeding, the 5,000, which was a real blessing, real great opportunity to see the church really working its muscle. So they give out turkeys and meals to five over. How many people, John, do you serve
We,
with
we
that?
prepare 1,000 boxes that will feed 5 people each and
Hmm.
pass those out. Yeah. And have
Hmm.
prayer and try to witness to the people as they come through.
Yeah, so I got to be part of that sort of assembly line that received people, got
Yeah.
to pray with people, speak with them, take their information down. So that was a really, really wonderful gift. And next week I'll be going down to do some similar things. I believe I'll be preaching to the saints and spending some time. Last year I also got to spend some time with the different pastors at Middleburg, and we'll be doing some of that again when I go down.
So that's awesome. Um, do you, what ways do you feel like this partnership has helped extend the kingdom? Which it could be that we've already talked about that, but I wanted to at least give you that opportunity, both in Florida and in New England.
I think I would say it's really been helpful for our congregation. One of the things we do every week, we do a pastoral prayer every week, and we pray for a specific church. Because one of the things we want our church to understand is that we are thankful there are other gospel preaching churches. And so it's an incredible gift to see one of those gospel preaching churches show up and be able to be a part of our life for a set period of time. It really, I think it helps expand. I mean, you see it all over the New Testament. Paul is constantly interacting with churches and having them interact with one another. And so there is a bond that's meant to be shared between us and other churches that is kingdom minded, right? We are not simply, although we are in the neighborhood, although we desire and long to see the people in our neighborhood saved, we pray for missions around the world and churches because we want our church to understand it's not just us doing the work, and it's not only our work we want to pray for and be about. And so it's been so helpful to have Middleburg consistently show up because it reminds them, oh, okay, there are other churches and they're doing work at other places, and we should be doing the same kind of thing too.
Good word. John, do you want to add anything?
Ditto. It's good for our folks. That was our first mission trip post-COVID, and we, as I said, are very missions minded and had multiple trips every year because not only the partnership and being able to share and support the ministry of other churches, but what it does for a person on the mission trip can change their life. And I think it opened the eyes of our folks to opportunities that are out there and the fact that there are gospel preaching churches and people have different expectations or make assumptions about different parts of the country, and I think it was good for our folks to get out of their bubble and experience something differently and realize those people need Jesus. And if we can be a small part of that, then I think it's great. I think it broadened our horizons, but it also allowed us to come back with a renewed emphasis, renewed faith, and again, seeing that spirit at Faith Community. And I think one big benefit when Dexley came to see us was I actually got him to try gator tail. Didn't you actually have a bite or not? I know
I
you were
did. No,
resistant
I
to something.
did.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
did.
okay.
Not a choice I would have made on my own.
Did you get to try hush puppies too?
No, I don't think so. No, no, no.
Hush puppies, those are the best things. You gotta
I
hook them
think they
up.
were there, but yeah, I'm
Oh,
not
I think I
sure.
may have, you know what? You had me on one thing. Committing to two was a lot.
Well, I'll just tell you on hush puppies, it's basically cornmeal that's fried. So it
Yeah.
has no bad things in it except
Mm.
fat, but it's delicious. Don't try that next time. Normally, when you have a meal like that, they'll serve hush puppies with it. Okay, what is the best experience or story that you could share to help others understand how important partnerships can be? I'll let either one of you pop in.
Well, I actually kind of last minute put out an email to all our participants today, and I told them I know it's last minute, and I realize I may not get many responses, and I've gotten a couple, but I want to share one. And actually, this came from Serenity Dorcely,
Yeah.
the older of the two girls in the family. Serenity's 20. She's a student at University of Florida. Go Gators. But she answered me almost immediately, and I want to read her email to you. She said, looking back on the mission trips to Rhode Island in 23 and 24, I can see how deeply church partnerships have shaped my understanding of the Christian faith. During these trips, I experienced firsthand the power of coming together with other churches to serve and share the gospel. Whether it was helping to fix up the church building, serving meals, or engaging in community outreach, the collaboration between churches from different backgrounds and locations made our efforts stronger and more impactful. These partnerships taught me the importance of unity as we were all working toward a common mission, each bringing unique strengths and perspectives. I saw how mutual support and accountability not only helped the communities in Rhode Island, but also deepened my own faith, reminding me that we're part of a larger body of believers called to serve together. These experiences have been a powerful reminder that God's work is never done in isolation. It's always about building relationships and serving in unity with others. And I just thought that was fantastic. So I wanted to share that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we love Serenity. So that's really sweet. She's wonderful and a hard worker, a very hard
Oh,
worker.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's so fantastic. No, that's so encouraging to hear. Yeah, tell her I said thank you for sharing that.
I'll forward that to you too. So,
Please. Yeah, please.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think again, the greatest gift has been the people. I think of David Gale, who you mentioned earlier, and I consider him a friend. I consider John a
Oh,
friend. And so I think that has been the greatest gift. But also other relationships. So you were mentioning brother in the neighborhood, Malcolm, is who you were talking about
yeah.
earlier,
Malcolm.
who Dave has formed a relationship with here. And just to see that develop, there are other people through the work you guys have done here. We have a movie night each year, and because of you guys, we can host that, we can do that. And for the first time last year, we had Stephanie, who lives right around the corner, come with her two kids, and so that was a real gift. In our neighborhood, it's interesting. John was mentioning that you didn't experience sort of that wall. In part, it's because we have a very diverse neighborhood. A lot of the people in our neighborhood are actually from the DR, so it's not surprising. Like last year, when you open a door and the person can't speak English, that happens. But we have a very
DR is the
interesting.
Dominican Republic for anybody
Oh
online.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the Dominican Republic.
They're
But yes,
Spanish-speaking people.
oh yeah, but we have
Yeah.
a very diverse neighborhood, and so you can have conversations with people. It's a wonderful thing, and it allows for us to do things that you would normally go, oh, you do door-to-door ministry still, and so it allows us to do that kind of thing and to be able to see relationships. Even last year, going with some of the different guys from Middleburg, even repeats, and seeing people open the door and say, oh, I know who you are. You guys look familiar.
Mhm.
And so that's been such a blessing. Last year, we had the opportunity to clean up an apartment for a refugee family coming in, and just to hear back from that family. And I don't know if I shared with you, John, but just their thankfulness. They were
Mm.
coming from a dangerous situation, and to be able to come and have a clean apartment was a gift. Some of the sisters at First Baptist Middleburg made us blankets, using one right now, but they sent us some extra ones that we were able to give to the refugee dream center, who is going to give them to a family coming in who has absolutely nothing. And so just to be able to like that's what we're doing. And so it's been a real blessing to have those experiences that don't happen outside of this partnership.
Mm.
And if I could just add one thing on this topic, which we have found over the years, we've worked in different locations with planting churches and things. People who are new to the country are really open to you talking to them, helping them, loving on them, because they need those relationships. Once they're here for a while, they might still be open, but they find their people group and their friends and all that, they're a little more settled. When you can, I guess, focus on reaching out to brand new people, it really does make a difference. And especially if you're thinking about people coming in that don't speak English, they want to speak English. They want to know you. They want to have a relationship with you. And it's a prime time for you and your church to really make a difference in someone's life. And thank you, Dexley, for doing that. It's awesome with the immigrant families that are coming in and refugees. They come from tough situations, some of them, and just having a friendly face, and they may know the Lord or they may not.
Mm.
Those relationships are key. So just to throw out to the other people listening and the people that'll listen in the future, if your church has that opportunity, it's a real time where people have a need, and if you can befriend them, by providing those things, some food or blankets or household goods or whatever, it really does open the door for those gospel conversations. So I'm thankful to hear that story, Dexley. That's awesome. Is there anything you would like to share that's suggestions on how to have good partner relationships, how to talk about things and be open, and from Dexley's side, share what you need, and from John's side, share what you need? Because I will say, sometimes people, and I definitely appreciate what John said earlier in the conversation about coming humbly and listening and providing what their partnering church needs is a big thing. I've had people that are in New England, they've been here for years, and they're like, yeah, we had partners and they came and they told us this and that, and it caused us a ton of problems. So I think that communication is a real key in listening and being humble on both sides, so that it's not just about what your church needs, but are we furthering the kingdom of God? And so doing that together, and what a beautiful picture of you guys' relationship, your church's relationship in this partnership. Is there something you want to share with others about how it's, working good, or some keys that you've used or anything like that?
Well, I think you said it. It's about communication and humility. But I think you listen. you listen to the Lord. Obviously, you bathe it in prayer, and I think it was a God ordained appointment when we met Dexley at that restaurant and heard his needs. It resonated, and when he was the only one that responded and was able to meet with us, you got to be sensitive to that. But I think listening to him and listening to his folks, communication is always two-way, and I think so often we just want to get our words out and our message out. We forget we need to listen as well. So I think trying to approach it that way and see what they needed and how we could help meet those needs and help him in the community.
I would say you need a lot of grace. I think,
Yeah.
we're in a situation where um, when you try to plan things in our neighborhood, it can be hard to get commitments and yeses. And so all three groups that have come have been so flexible because, we'll try to plan something for local elementary school and it doesn't work out. Or it has to change a little bit. And so I think you need to be flexible. You need to be willing um, to do things differently than you planned for. And I think that has allowed this relationship to work really well because the expectations are realistic and they're seasoned with grace and humility. And the core desire isn't that we get a list of things done. It's honestly that we just get to do some ministry together. And I think that being the point that we get to be gospel ambassadors together really helps it helps fill out the majority of what we're thinking about doing. And then, yeah, we color in the space with doing some park ministry, doing some work at the building. But I think that flexibility and grace really has allowed this relationship to continue and for us not to get sick of each other, right? I think it's really easy to get frustrated because things aren't going the right way, but there's just been joy because we just want to do some ministry together. And I think that's been what's tethered this relationship, the longing to do ministry together. And that's what's
Yeah.
going to, I think, allow it to keep on going for Lord willing years to come. Because we just want to, there's the work is, Jesus tells us, plenty. And so the work won't stop. There will never be a reason not to stop working together. I think why we'll keep working together is because at the core of what we're trying to do is be gospel ministers together.
That's a good word.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw in a couple of points in just a minute, but was there anything that I didn't ask you guys? Something that popped in your mind while we've been having this conversation that you would like to share?
Yeah, I would just encourage, I think, regardless of what your needs are, like we happen to be a church that could say on paper we have a lot of needs, but even if we didn't have those felt needs, I think it would still be important for us to think about partnership and have churches come alongside the work we're doing. I think you don't realize, I think it's sort of like maybe you guys have heard of the sort of the loneliness pandemic we're in, and that people are becoming more and more isolated. And there's this perceived understanding that we don't need people. And I think as churches, we isolate ourselves. I remember growing up in a church that I love, but never feeling like there were any other Christians or churches around us. And I don't think we realize how valuable being with each other is. Having people with different perspectives, but the same gospel,
Mm.
be with us, how good that is, and how normative it was in the Bible. And if it was that normal in the Bible, I think we should think about why that is, and perhaps maybe we should be exercising the same kind of things. But I just want to encourage, even if you feel like, oh, we don't have a ton of needs, find ways to partner with another church, whether it be a church in the Jacksonville area or in the New England area. I just think it'll be invaluable in the future, but I think it's invaluable today too.
Yeah, well said. And on our part, I think we truly want to be partners. We've looked for ways, bringing Dexley down and being part of our church and engaging with our church, seeing the feeding the 5,000. I know it's going to be tough for some of his folks to participate, maybe in another mission trip we do to Cuba or Mexico or something like that. But we want to be able to include them in things we do as well if those opportunities present themselves. So, because it's right. I mean, it is normative in the New Testament. Paul encouraged that, as you said, and why would we not follow the biblical model? So
Yeah. Well, one day we're all going to be in heaven together.
that's right.
So anything we can do on earth, excuse me, to develop and love one another, it's awesome. Now, if anybody has any questions online, please pop them in. you guys can hang with me another few minutes in case the questions are directed to you. I'm going to share just a couple of few points on partnership. And I do have this information in a format with some extra details that I'm happy to share on for our partnering side, things that help them get prepared, and for our BC&E side, things that help us get prepared. But a lot of what is in my document we've said tonight, the focusing on the relationship, praying for each other, encouraging one another, listening to each other makes for a good partnership. I think setting expectations. I'm thankful, John, that you set expectations with your people before they came, and I'm glad that God took them all down and it didn't happen. People were talking to you and engaging with you. So there is a question. Let me just read it and I'll let you guys answer, because I can send my information out later if people are interested. What roles did your churches play in the starting and forming the partnership?
Well, I guess from my perspective, it started with the vision trip, knowing we were going up to see where we could engage, just keeping our eyes wide open. But once, we identified Dexley and Faith Community, it was about the relationship. It was really just reaching out to him and he and I staying in communication. We didn't really involve Sharon or BC&E. We let them know what we were doing, certainly, but it's about the two churches getting together and forming that partnership and that relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think what Sharon did is, I think, ideal. They sort of set up the speed date and then they let the sparks fly. And so, yeah, they set it up for us, and then we connected, and we just started continuing to cultivate that relationship.
And then from my end, for our BC&E churches, there's a place that you can go onto our website, or you can email me. And I like to set up a conversation on both sides with our future partners as well as our BC&E churches. So I know your context, I know who you are, I know your needs, and I keep that list of BC&E church needs. And as partners come to me, which happens in a variety of ways, sometimes I meet them in person, sometimes they're just contacting me, sometimes it comes through Terry or Sandy or Joe Souza. Other staff people say, hey, this church is really interested, connect with them. And then I try to connect you together. And a lot of times I do encourage our future partners to come on a partnership kind of preview trip, a vision trip type of deal, where they come and I try to narrow down where they're going to be. Like for John's, they were in Connecticut and Rhode Island, I think, for the most part, a little bit of Massachusetts, but a central area, and then introduce them to several people that I think could be a fit. And then they begin that conversation and the follow-up to see, what happens with that. But, my role is really to be the connector. And then if things aren't working out, come back to me and I will help you either way on our BC&E side or on our partner side to find another connection that might be a better fit. So thank you for that question. A couple more things I'll go through. We still have a few more minutes and then, there's more. Okay. How do you teach and communicate the partnership with your churches? So I don't know if you're asking me or them, but we'll all answer. So for me, I usually am teaching at the BC&E annual meeting on partnership. I have a document that I share again with both sides. And then typically I'll throw out an email at least a couple of times a year. Hey, anybody interested in partnerships for BC&E churches? I also go through, we have some local BC&E people that are on the ground. And so I connect with them. Hey, do you know of any of your churches that are open? I find that when I send an email, I don't always get a response. So the relationship is the best way for me. So if you can contact me if you're interested, I'll definitely set a phone call with you and we'll talk through what you're looking for in partnership and then be on the lookout for you. I'll let you guys answer. I'm not sure who this question was directed for.
Yeah, I can jump in. Several ways. So through our pastoral prayers, we try to teach and cultivate a longing for partnership. And when we know like Middleburg is coming, we'll pray in particular for our time together. When appropriate in preaching. And so like when we've hit some of the letters of Paul, like we've preached through Philippians, talking about the necessity of partnership and the longing that we have to do ministry together with others, even those outside of our church. But also we use our family meetings or members meetings to prepare and teach the church. And so like one of the things we try to do is really encourage them to be a part of those weeks, not to think about it like a sort of they're coming to do the work and we get to enjoy it, but as much as we can and as much as your time will allow, come part like we're partnering with them. They are walking alongside work we're doing. So almost imagine we were doing it without them. Now we couldn't do it without them, but imagine we weren't doing it with them. So come as if they weren't coming, but then be happily surprised to see we have a whole other group of faithful believers who are doing the work with us. And so we try to use the weeks and months prior to their coming to talk about that time together, communicate what we're going to do, give people dates, calendars to know the different ways they can participate.
Yeah, for us, as I said, we're kind of a missions-minded church, so we focus. It's been primarily on the local opportunities, but we have always taught missions. We actually take the month of September now and call it Go Month. And each Sunday, it starts from the verse in Acts, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the uttermost parts of the earth. We talk about local missions and then expanding domestic and international and where we can focus. And when we initially started the partnership with Faith Community, we didn't have much time, so we kind of announced, "Hey, we're doing this. Here's what it means. Here's what we think it means. Anyone interested, come see John." And we went from there. And once we built on that, we came back and had a testimony night on a Wednesday night where the entire team got up there and talked about the experiences up there. And it was just so rich in sharing that and hearing that. So it energized more people. So when we had time to plan the trip the next year, we had a lot of interest and expanded to 2 weeks. And several people had to drop out. But when the best salespeople, I guess, are the people that have been on the initial trip and come back and talked about the relationship they formed and the work they did and the fact that Jesus was shared in the community. So we teach missions and we talk about the partnership and what it means, but really doing that from the pulpit is good, but doing it from the hearts of the people that have been on the trip is even better.
One thought that came to me when we're talking about this, John, did Dexley give you a number of people to bring that would be good for his church? Or did you guys try to decide that? Because I know if you think about a church of, say, 35 or 40, I don't know if you'd want to bring, 100 people.
Yeah. I think we talked about it. I knew that initial trip, it was going to be tough to get a large number anyway. So I think we probably brought about 10 or 11 the first time. And then having the 2 weeks this last time around to spread it out, I think we would limit it because it can be overwhelming. And I understand that. And I don't know how Dexley feels about that, but we would probably limit it. And if we had to expand, I mean, we're looking for other missions opportunities too. So if there's enough interest, I think you would have to fight the people that have already been to Rhode Island to try to take their place because they wouldn't give it up. So we're going to have a hard time adding people, I think, because the people that have already been will want to go again. But
And
yeah, I
just to
think we
maybe
probably do want to keep some kind of number in mind so it's not overwhelming.
maybe just to add to that, I don't think we had a conversation about limiting the number. And I would
Yeah,
say, I don't think either. So the biggest group would have been last year, so a little over 2 weeks. I think each time it was probably around 14 or 15. And I
yeah, I
mean,
think it was.
personally for us, it didn't feel overwhelming. I think, yeah, I mean, partly because we had the work to do. So,
Yeah,
and we were able to, with the needs at the building and also ministry in the community, we were able to split the group well. So
that's right.
yeah, it didn't feel overwhelming. For us, it worked really well. But yes, that's probably, it's funny you say that because I don't think we had a conversation about that, but
Yeah.
it worked out well each time. Yeah.
And
It did.
I know for some areas, especially in the rural parts of New England, places to stay could be an issue as well. So you may be saying, okay, we can, we have a retreat center, or we have the BC&E Lodge or whatever that only holds this many. And then one thing I could do too is if you have a larger group, I could probably find multiple spots for that group. That doesn't relate to you guys, but in thinking about partnering in the future with other churches that might want to and have larger groups, we do have flexibility with other churches in the area to be helpful. And one thing I could say about New Englanders is the mission is huge here. So we're willing to share. We just need you. We need you to come and be a part of it. So, all right. Well, I think we have like 1 minute left. So any other last minute thoughts from you guys?
Very thankful for the partnership and the friendship. I know we'll be together in heaven, but it's nice being together now and serving the Lord this way.
Amen. Amen.
Hey, Dexley, send me the date you're going to be at John's church. If we're in town, maybe we could pop over.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. We'll
It'd be
do.
fun to see you and hear you speak if we're home.
We'll do.
Well, I will never see speed dating the same ever again now. That was awesome. And so as I put in the chat, we'll send some additional information of the things that Sharon talked about, and we'll be sending her follow-up information, so you'll have her email.